Trade rumors are intensifying around the National Football League, and as always, the Dallas Cowboys are in the mix, and they are involved in the heat of the rumors. An analyst actually linked them to 3 players, which we will break down and discuss on this episode of Cowboys Digest, so you won't want to miss what's coming up next. Welcome in, Cowboy fans, to Cowboys Digest. I'm your host, Peter Vryonis, and today we're going to be breaking down 3 potential trade targets for the Dallas Cowboys as we head into Week 6 against the Detroit Lions at home at AT&T Stadium. It's going to be a lot of fun. Again, everyone is picking Detroit to go ahead and stomp Dallas at home, and I understand it. I mean, Detroit is one of the best teams in the National Football League, and they're expected to be up there when we're talking about contenders in the NFC, but the way that Dallas has played in the last 2 games and the way that they got the job done in Pittsburgh against a tough defense, I wouldn't count them out. I wouldn't be so quick to go ahead and do that. Before we get into the video, I want to let you know that around 85% of you watching these are not subscribed, and we're very close to my goal of 1,500 subscribers. So it would mean the world to me if you could help me get there, and we're almost there. So go ahead, hit that sub button. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything. And let's get straight into the video. Let's take a look at some of the targets here, and we'll start with like the least possible, and we'll go to the most possible, I would say. The first one is T. Higgins of the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, you might say, Peter, what the hell are you talking about? Why would the Bengals trade him away? I'll tell you why. It's because they haven't signed Jamar Chase yet, and they are currently 1-4 on the season after losing yet again last week to the Baltimore Ravens, a game that they should have had, quite honestly. And this is the reasoning behind this, I'll read you out this reasoning here. Higgins is a high-end number 2 receiver who should draw a fair return, even in a market that could be flooded with receiver talent. Logical suitors include the Kansas City Chiefs, who recently placed Rashee Rice on injured reserve, and the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas may have salvaged its season with a much-needed win over the Pittsburgh Steelers on Sunday night, and it could use a strong replacement to CeeDee Lamb on the perimeter. Brandon Cooks was recently placed on injured reserve following a knee procedure. Now, I understand this, I really do, and I've mentioned Davante Adams before on this channel. I have mentioned Deontay Johnson before as well. I don't know if this is what the Cowboys need, and I'm talking about a wide receiver. However, it can hurt. I don't think this could hurt, and the analyst that actually proposed this is Christopher Knox, so he does a great job over at Bleacher Report. I'm not opposed to this. I would definitely love T. Higgins on the roster, but let's take a look at last week and the way that Jalen Tolbert performed. He was amazing. He was the leader in targets for that game. He had over 70 yards. The guy was crushing it, and of course caught that game-winning touchdown from Dak Prescott to seal it and to win that game on Sunday Night Football. So I understand that you want this flashy new toy, and I was on that same train as well. But if Jalen Tolbert keeps progressing the way that we've seen in the past couple of weeks, because now with Brandon Cooks out, he's going to have an elevated role and much more opportunity to go ahead and do something. So I'm looking at Jalen Tolbert and saying, go grab that wide receiver 2 position. That's all you, man. We know CD is going to do his thing. We know he got paid. We know he's our guy. We're going to try to go to him as much as possible. But that wide receiver 2 is wide open, baby. Go ahead. Go and grab it. Go grab the bull by the horns. Let's get into the next one here. Budda Baker. Now, this is an interesting one. The safety on the Arizona Cardinals. I don't really know how I feel about this, and Christopher Knox as well kind of just threw the Cowboys in there, which is why I wanted to include Budda Baker. Obviously, he's a Pro Bowl level talent. He's one of the hardest hitting safeties in the league. He would help, and Baker could also be a sensible trade target for the Cowboys. Dallas is still in the playoff mix and has gotten underwhelming play from safeties Donovan Wilson and Malik Hooker, a fact recently noted by Matt Holder of Bleacher Report scouting department. So the potential suitors, the Dallas Cowboys and the Detroit Lions, who, by the way, are going to be facing off this Sunday, as I mentioned in the introduction. And the Lions have, despite a prolific offense and an offense that can move the ball better than anybody in football, they struggled defensively. In that Monday Night Football matchup that they had against the Seattle Seahawks, the Seahawks were doing whatever they wanted. They were moving the ball up and down the field, and they were able to pretty much establish themselves offensively. So defensively, that is going to be my worry with the Cowboys heading into this week's matchup with the Lions. But I'm not worried about them being able to move the ball. They were able to get 300 plus yards of offense against the Steelers, a team that is stingy defensively. So the Cowboys were moving the ball against an elite defense. Now they're coming up against a middle of the pack defense. You could even argue bottom third level defense. And I think it's going to be a shootout. It has to be a shootout if the Cowboys want to walk away with a W from that one. Let's go to the next one. And this is the one that I'm really excited to talk about. Amari Cooper, of course, former Dallas Cowboy, current wide receiver of the Cleveland Browns, who are the worst team in football. I can safely say that. And Deshaun Watson might be the worst quarterback in football. Give me Aiden O'Connell, the newly appointed starter of the Las Vegas Raiders, to quarterback my football team ahead of Deshaun Watson. And I think Amari Cooper kind of feels this way as well. He looks dejected. Even though he's getting his targets and he's making things happen, he is the only one making things happen on that Cleveland Browns offense. They've been terrible defensively, offensively, special teams wise. Pick whatever unit you want to pick from the Browns. They have been awful, which is a sentiment echoed here. Cooper would be an ideal target for the Chiefs, as he's been a proven number one target at every NFL stop thus far. He'd also make a ton of sense for the Cowboys because of his team-friendly contract. And according to Rossini, Dallas was never interested in Adams because of the financial cost. Perhaps the Cowboys will look to reacquire Cooper, who they traded to Cleveland in 2022, now that the price point is manageable. And talking about that price point, take a look here. So Adams' salary, Devontae Adams that is, his salary is going to balloon to $35.6 million next year in 2025, and Cooper can be viewed as a cost-efficient short-term rental thanks to an off-season restructuring. Cooper carries a base salary of just $1.2 million this season. The Browns had no plans to move Cooper ahead of their latest loss, but Sunday's embarrassment should change Cleveland's tune. The Browns can't even play competitive football with Watson under center, and this is shaping up to be a lost season. A strong offer should pry Cooper out of Cleveland, since he's set to be a 2025 free agent and probably has no interest in returning to the current mess. That's a good way to describe Cleveland. A mess. A dumpster fire. An absolute crapshoot. Whatever you want to call it, Cleveland has been a total and utter disaster, and Amari Cooper can't get out of there soon enough, so I'm sure he's going to want to book his first ticket out of Cleveland and go back to either the Cowboys or go to the Kansas City Chiefs, play with a little bit of Patty Mahomes there. Like, there is no worse situation than the Cleveland Browns right now. I'm sure he'd rather go to Carolina, which is saying something about the dysfunction of that organization. But Jerry, if there was ever a time to make good on a past trade that you made, and I still didn't hate the Amari Cooper trade. I thought he was really expensive for what he was providing to the Dallas Cowboys, but ever since going to Cleveland, I mean, he's showing that he's still a number one level wide receiver. So go ahead and acquire him if the cost is right. And I'm sure it might cost probably more than you got back in return to go out and acquire him, just because of the salary being much different this time around. But what do you guys think of these three trade targets? Let me know in the comments down below. What do you think of Budda Baker, of T. Higgins, and of my personal favorite of this group, Amari Cooper, potentially taking the route of Dallas? Let me know in the comments down below. And again, make sure to hit that sub button, because a large majority of you watching these videos are not subscribed. So go ahead, hit that. It's free, doesn't cost you anything, and it helps me out a ton. We're very close to my goal, but thank you all for the support that we've received on previous videos, on just from the inception of this channel. So shout out to you guys, and I'll see you all tomorrow.